You want to throw in the towel, you want to be done, and you just feel like you can't keep going. You're exhausted. You are not alone in this. If you have had a day where you feel like you're going to quit, I want you to stop and listen, because I can almost guarantee you by the end of today, you're going to feel differently about yourself and about your business. What you're really saying most times is, I want relief from the way that I'm feeling. I don't want to feel this way any longer. You don't need an exit plan. You need rest. If you decide to walk off that field, you're going to have to live with it, nobody else. If I had to tell a future daughter, I had a hard month, so I quit, would I feel proud to say that to her? And I would hate for you to leave a sport that you were built for, that you were designed for, that you could win the championship of, because you had a moment of weakness. The only difference between the person who is there 10 years later and the person who's not is one refused to quit. Hello, and welcome back to Ambitious. Today, we are talking about something that you have absolutely experienced in your business. Those days that you just feel like, I need to quit, where you want to throw in the towel, you want to be done, and you just feel like you can't keep going. You can't keep moving forward with the business in the way that it's been operating because you're exhausted. And I want to talk about this today because it's something that I literally get messages about all the time. Sometimes from peers who are experiencing a rough patch in their business or a rough day in their business, and other times from clients. And this is something that I literally have a framework of how I coach people through these days. And I also want to be very transparent how I coach myself through these days. And that's because this is something you're going to experience. And I want to also just call it out right now. You are not alone in this. I would say 99% of entrepreneurs that I know have had days where they wonder, is this going to work? Is this worth it? Is this actually going to happen for me? And they start to get to this place where they just wonder, can I continue? Can I keep pushing on and keep executing? Or is this just kind of it for me? And I want to talk about this because you deserve to understand that if you are having one of those days, you need to get somebody to assist you with getting back to baseline and getting back to executing. And I want to share an analogy that was passed on to me from one of my past mentors. And it was like an analogy that changed everything for me, because he talked about the fact that there's a couple key pieces. Entrepreneurship is like playing a game. Okay. So that's the field. You are the player of that game. Okay. So there's the play, which is the strategy that you're executing, the player, which is you, the field, which is entrepreneurship and your business. And then you also have your coach and you've got your teammates, your group of people, your advisors, your peers, the people who help you to continue on and to keep going inside of your business. One of the things that is really important for us to recognize is that when we are in business, when we are an entrepreneur, we are getting hit every which way. It could be you're being canceled. It could be your social media is not working. Your team members quitting. You're having your worst revenue month and you're wondering, oh my gosh, is this going to continue? It can take a million different flavors. But the reality is that all of us are going to experience this at some point in our business. And I don't want you to feel alone in that, because this is something all of us at some point have navigated. The question is, what's really the difference between the people who have these bad days and get back on the field versus one of these bad days potentially being something that takes someone out of the game entirely? And what I know is that if you are here and you're listening to this, you're somebody who wants to crush in this game of entrepreneurship. You want to crush at business. You want to be the person who not only makes wild success for yourself, but also for your family, for the people around you, for your clients, for your team. And what that requires is that you're good, because you are the center, the nucleus, if you will, of your ecosystem, of your world, of your family, of your clients. And so when you're having these days of like, I'm going to throw in the towel, you need to realize that you're under a lot of pressure. You're the CEO of a business. You're the founder of a business. So if that is the case, you're under extreme pressure. So it means that when these days come up, you have to have a way to navigate them. So I want you to use today's episode and this discussion together to be the track you listen to on the days you want to quit. This is something that you can listen to in your headphones to say, okay, when I have those days where I just feel like I can't keep going, I have those days where I just wonder if it's worth it. I have days where I question if it's going to happen. What I then ask myself is, okay, great. Where do I get my coaching? For me, sometimes it is my coach, sometimes it is my peers, and sometimes I just literally need to have time to center and to be alone. And so let this be one of those things. Maybe you don't have an incredible group of peers that you trust when it comes to your business. Let this be a coaching moment for you. Maybe you don't have a coach right now that you're working with. Great. Let this be the coaching for you. Today, what I'm going to share is exactly what I share with my 6 to multiple 7-figure clients and everything in between. And so, if you have had a day where you feel like you're going to quit, where you feel like you can't keep going, where you feel like this might be it for you in your business, I want you to stop and listen, because I can almost guarantee you by the end of today, you're going to feel differently about yourself and about your business. So, one of the things that I know is that I have also myself experienced these moments. And I've had these times where I felt like there was a couple core things that I saw come up. One of the things that I saw come up was the fact that I started to question whether, as a player in this game, could I win this? Could I really have the potential to win this game? Sometimes it's really difficult to keep going when you literally feel like it's, the third quarter of a game and you're like, we're never going to turn this around. This is not going to happen. And it can feel really defeating at times when you feel like you've been executing and you've been doing things and you've been executing strategies and taking steps and spending money and putting in effort. And you're just like, man, where are the results? Where are the results? So I think first that I've seen in my business over the years is I've seen this happen where I feel like I'm doing all the things, but I'm not seeing the outcome. And it can feel really defeating to have to continue in a time where you're lacking evidence that something is working. It's like thinking about if you were going to the gym and you continue to go to the gym and go to the gym and go to the gym, but you never lost a pound, you never gained muscle, you never changed the pant size. And you're like, is this working? The second that I have found come up is like, am I cut out for this? Sometimes it's not even a frustration with the business. I don't know if you felt this, but you get to this place where you're like, I'm not even mad at the business. I'm just like, I don't know if this is for me. Like you start to wonder, am I made for this sport of entrepreneurship, the sport of being a business owner? And I think that one for me has the biggest shame in it, because sometimes I think, okay, well, if I was a true entrepreneur, I wouldn't think about quitting. I wouldn't think about, not being a business owner. I would never even entertain it. And I think that one for me oftentimes sends me in a spiral, because I'll have, days or, I remember even at the beginning of the business, I would have times where I literally remember saying to my partner at the time, maybe I'm just like silly to not just be in a 9 to 5. Like, do you think that maybe I'm just not cut out for this, right? And I felt like what was happening in my world at the time, I took that to be an indication of me, of my personal qualities, of my personal ability to succeed in this. So I think one is that I would see something I was doing wasn't working. And so I wondered, like, I'm just banging my head against a wall here. Like, this isn't going to work. It was defeating that you could win the game. Second is that I was defeated whether to know, am I actually the player who should be playing this? Like, should I even be on this field in the first place? Imposter syndrome, shame, all kinds of things. And I think the other is frankly injury. You're feeling weak. You've got a pain in your ankle, a pain in your back, which for me was burnout, exhaustion, just so mentally, physically, energetically depleted. And I remember thinking, like, I'm wounded. I literally felt like a wounded animal. And I was like, I can't keep walking. Like, I have to stop. I have to stop. And it felt sometimes like, quitting or saying that I was done was going to give me this like relief. I would be able to finally be that person that was injured who could finally go sit on the bench and just breathe. And I almost felt sometimes by saying that I would quit, that I would finally feel relief in this feeling, not knowing at the time that it was literally just exhaustion and burnout. And so I think that there's so much wrapped into this idea of like, I want to quit or I'm done. And we need to unpack it to understand where it's coming from so that you can start to then know, what do I do next? Because I think many of us, we feel this resistance inside of us and we're instantly into, okay, like, let's fix it. Let's fix it. And there are things I want to share with you as to how to fix this. But I think another piece that's really crucial is like, do you really even know where this feeling is coming from? And if you don't know where the feeling is coming from, then how can you possibly solve for it? So, one of the first things that I want to walk you through is, how do we actually unpack this? And so I'm going to coach you as if I would coach you as my client. One of the first things I tell all clients, and they absolutely hate this, is regulation. So here's the thing. I'm going to really simplify this for you in just like 60 seconds, maybe 90 seconds. So being dysregulated basically means that your body is experiencing, and your brain is experiencing, an acute stress or a ongoing stress in your business that is causing your brain and your body to go into what's considered to be fight or flight. It also can be fawn and freeze. So there's technically four that it can be, but the most common are fight or flight. Your brain and body go into fight or flight. This essentially means that your brain and body don't know the difference of the stress in your business versus you being like chased by a bear. Okay. And that is actually designed for your survival. It means that when you are chased by the bear, your body is going to shut off all these other parts of your body that are not required for your survival. And that's because all those other parts are taking energy. They're taking energy away from you surviving. So, the thing that we need to acknowledge is that when you have a lot of stress in your business, or you're having a stressful season, a stressful moment, a stressful day, your body and brain most often are in fight or flight. And so this means that your nervous system is dysregulated. So when you go to action and you're like, I'm going to solve this, I'm going to take a next step and execute a solution. That's great, but the reality is your brain and body are not regulated. So it means you literally have, again, remember, certain parts of your brain and your functioning, your executive functioning, are turning off. You literally don't have access to some of the tools that you could use to solve this problem, simply based off the fact that you're dysregulated. Your brain and body, without you consciously deciding, shut off parts of your brain to not give you information to help with your survival. So, one of the things before we ever go into solving that we have to do is we have to regulate. So, I want to preface here, it's going to feel counterintuitive when you are getting a message from a team member who says, hey, I'm actually done. This is me putting my time in. And you go, oh my God, I'm an agency. This person has 20 of their own clients. Who am I going to give their clients to? And how am I going to do this? And what about this? And your brain starts to spiral. One of the things that's really important is that we're able to say, okay, I got the message from the team member, but I'm not going to answer it immediately. I get the message from a client who's disgruntled about something. I'm not going to answer that immediately. I have a person who's calling me out on social media. I'm not going to answer that right now. It's going to feel in every part of your brain and body like it's the wrong thing to do. You're going to feel like, no, I need to answer that, or I need to go take action on that, or I have to go respond to this. And what I want you to do is I want you to really pay attention to fighting that feeling, because you want to acknowledge that it's there, because it's going to be there, but you want to also acknowledge, I'm not going to give into that. I'm going to go regulate. I'm going to be very direct with you. The most successful entrepreneurs that I know, both clients, peers, etc., they are all the most regulated entrepreneurs. The people that are the most successful in business are not necessarily the smartest. They're the people who are able to play the game the longest. They play the game with the ability, as I was saying, with being regulated, to tap into certain resources when they need them. And they're people who know how to play the game to their advantage. That's because they're regulated. So if you are someone who, in the moment of a problem coming up in your business, immediately spirals, it takes your whole day away, it takes a couple days away, sometimes it takes a week away. You're venting to your team about it, then you're venting to your partner, then you're venting, and you're just feeling like it's just kind of infecting every area of your life. What I want you to recognize is that's dysregulation. And the faster that you can feel a spark or an activation of stress, recognize that and instantly go into regulation, the more successful of an entrepreneur you're going to be. Now, this is not easy. I want to throw myself on the stake here. I used to be crap at this. Absolute crap. I was so bad at regulating initially. I would spiral. Something would happen and I would be, you know, talking, as I said, to a team member about it. I would call a friend about it, and then I might call a family member about it. And then I'd be like, oh, I have to go for a drive about this. And I would go for a drive about it. Before I knew it, I had lost hours, if not sometimes the whole day, because of a problem that had come up. I basically was the equivalent of like, I walked off the field and I'm like, I'm not playing this anymore today. I let down my team. I stopped playing the game. And I couldn't get back on the field. I was like, I can't get back on the field till next week, till tomorrow, kind of thing. So, one of the things that I always look at with all clients is I tell them, I don't want to talk to you until you go regulate. So, thank you for sharing this with me. And I want you to go take 10 minutes and go do something to bring yourself to baseline. Now, regulation, there's a lot of different tools that you can use. So, I'm not going to tell you like this is the thing that you go do. You have to do, and like my biggest advice when it comes to regulation, the thing you're actually going to execute. For me specifically, one of the things that I do is I will literally go for a drive for 5 minutes. I will blast music. I will put down the windows. I will do whatever I can to basically get myself to feel emotion, to cry if I need to, scream if I need to, sing along to the music if I need to, whatever can help me to shift my state. The other thing that I'm notorious for is water. So either hot water or cold water. Typically it's cold, but I will have a cold shower quickly. I will put my face into cold water, my hands in cold water. I will do something that helps me to instantly come back to baseline, which in some way, shape, or form is typically cold. The other is nasal breathing. So what I literally will do is I will hold, and if you're not watching this, I'm literally pressing down on one of my nostrils and I'm breathing in the other. And then I'm going to do the other side and the other side, and I'm going to switch. So I'm going to hold down one nostril, breathe in, then go back to the other nostril you just breathed in from and close it and breathe out the other side. And I'm going to do that as slow as I can for long, deep breaths, usually for a count of 3. So I'll show you again. Hold down your nose, count of 3. Hold, go back, hold the other one that you just breathed in from, and breathe out the side that you were pushing on. And 3. So I will go back and forth doing that for typically around 10 rounds. What that is doing is it's activating my vagus nerve and it's helping my body to baseline. You will notice that a lot of these can be done in a short amount of time. So I don't need you to do 2 hours, 3 hours. If you are in the middle of a chaotic meeting with a client and your team is there, etc., you can go and say, hey, I'm just going to use the washroom really quickly. I'll be right back. You go to the washroom, you do the nostrils and the deep breathing, run your hands under some cold water, put the cold water on the back of your neck, bring yourself back to baseline. This is the entire intention of get back on the field. Get back on the field. We need to be able to stay in the game. I'm not saying you have to win the game. I'm not saying that we're going to focus on all that yet. It's just a matter of we're going to stay in the game. So, one of the things we have to understand is that regulation is required for you to have the resources to solve a problem. If you don't regulate, your brain can't provide you the resources that you could have sitting right underneath your nose, just simply based off the fact that your brain won't let you access them. So, if you're in this place where you're feeling frantic, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling at a peak, remember, it's usually a byproduct of a couple things that are going to be happening. Number 1, you're exhausted. Okay? You're burnt out. You've been burning the midnight oil. You've been working crazy hours. You told yourself it was going to be a season, but conveniently enough, the season has lasted a very long time, and you just feel like you're not getting a break, you're not getting relief, and it's beyond frustrating. Okay? So that's typically bucket number 1 is that you need rest. You don't need an exit plan. Okay? So that's first bucket. Second bucket is something, is broken in your business and it needs to change. So there's something strategically, something in the steps, something in the execution that genuinely right now is not working. And there's something that needs to be investigated to figure out what that is to help it to be fixed. The third could also be the fact that you have literally outgrown your current state of business, your current way of doing business. And this is something that I see is sometimes when people feel like they're playing a sport they don't even enjoy anymore. It's not that they couldn't win. It's not that they're not equipped to do it. They're sometimes very skilled at doing it. They just don't love the sport anymore. And they're like, Why do I never want to go to practice? Why do I never want to go to game day? It's not because you couldn't win the game. You definitely could win the game. Two, it's not because you technically are not the person who's skilled enough to do it. It's because you don't even really want to be there. You don't love it the way that you used to. And this often happens when people scale really rapidly. If you scale from six figures to seven very quickly, or even six to multiple seven very quickly, you will typically notice that you will have these moments where you realize I have really outgrown the way that I've done things. And it's also very hard because sometimes when the thing that you've outgrown has been the thing that's actually generated a lot of success for you, it's generated a lot of outcomes, it's very difficult to let that go because there's so much evidence to say that it's successful. And so it can feel a little bit almost like counterintuitive to be like, I'm going to let go of the thing that literally made me a millionaire, right? Like it can feel wrong in some ways. So when you are in this place of either exhausted, something is broken in your business, you're not enjoying your business, the mistake people make is that, again, we're having this moment of like, I got to get out of here. Or I just feel like I need to quit. I need rest. I need, relief. When you need this relief, that you just want to be over. You don't want to feel this way anymore, right? You just want the quickest relief as possible. And that's why people say like I'm considering throwing in the towel. I'm considering quitting. It's not because they don't want to be an entrepreneur. It's not because they truly want to quit. It's because they want relief. What you're really saying when you're saying I want to quit this business most times is I want relief from the way that I'm feeling and I don't want to feel this way any longer. That's valid. That's valid. But we have to also ensure that a short-term experience is not something that actually creates permanent decisions and change in your life or business. So, one of the first things we need to do is regulate, okay? So remember, we can't access resources in our brain that may help us to solve this problem if we're not regulated. So if I was going to coach you and you come to me, regardless of the fire that you bring me, I'm going to tell you to go regulate and come back. So if I say, okay, quick check-in scale 1 to 10, how stressed are you feeling right now? 8. Okay, great. Come back to me. And then they come back and I say, great, 1 to 10, where are you at? I'm at a 6. Okay, great. Go back and do it again. I want someone to be at like a 3. I don't need you to be like, I am calm and I am the most grounded and centered I've ever been. But I do need you to be at a place where you feel like you can hear me. If you're not regulated, you can't hear me, which means we really can't solve anything anyways. So when we get to regulation, then comes the place of, okay, the timing. Most people, I find, quit at the time that is the exact moment the compound of the thing that they're going to do is oftentimes going to kick in. So remember we said one of the things that can cause people to want to quit their business is feeling like they're doing things day in, day out, and they're not seeing outcomes. And again, this is something that I've seen. It's something that tells me someone's strategy needs adjustment. But in the moment, you're like, I don't even care about strategy adjustment. I just feel like I'm done. Like I quit. I'm over it. And you're feeling really defeated. The thing that I was taught by a mentor, which was extremely helpful, is very Canadian of me, but it's the hockey stick moment. So it's literally, if you're listening, like think like the flat part of the bottom of a hockey stick and then the quick up of the long stick of a hockey stick. So I want you to picture that visual because the hockey stick moment is literally a visual of what, in some regards, and some different places of your business, entrepreneurship is like. And frankly, a lot of goals are. You're executing, you're go, 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 go. And then boom, you have this takeoff. You're posting content. Nothing is happening. Followers aren't growing. Things are not landing. You feel like you're not exploding. You're not going viral and you're pissed. Then you post that video and boom, from that point onward, our videos start to get views. We're starting to go viral now. We're starting to get followers now. And before you know it, you've got this uptick. I remember going to my coach in year 1 of my business and I said, we're not growing at the rate that I want to grow. We're not growing fast enough. So I feel like I'm doing everything and nothing is moving the needle. And this is where he explained the hockey stick. And he said, Kate, the hockey stick moment is basically a model that you have to use as an anchor in your business to recognize that oftentimes when you are executing a strategy, it's going to require you to be consistent, and you're maybe not going to see any evidence that it's working. It's like going to the gym. You don't see the abs the first time you go. You go and you go and you go and you go, and it's like 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and then you see a little peak of an ab and you go, oh, and then you see 12 weeks, oh, and before you know it, over time, we then start to see some momentum. The basis of the hockey stick moment is the fact that sometimes in your life, you're going to have consistency of effort, but no consistent evidence that that effort is generating results. And the difference of the people who succeed are the people who can continue to take action, even if the massive outcome they're looking for hasn't happened yet. And that's because they trust the compound effect, which really is what that is. We're not talking aimless waiting and never monitoring to see if anything's happening. We're not talking being oblivious to the fact that there's no success. We're talking about the fact that you need to be tuned in enough to be able to see, okay, we're seeing this action, then action again, then action again. And we know that if you go to the gym for 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 3 months, 9 months, you are going to see impact in your health, in your strength, in your sleep, in your mobility. You're going to see a change, but it requires consistent effort over time before that big switch is going to happen. So, one of the things that I think is the biggest mistake is that a lot of people will take that bottom part of a hockey stick and that moment where you feel like, I'm doing all the things. Where the heck is my result? And it can feel so frustrating. I know it so, so well, those moments. It can feel so annoying and so frustrating. And you think, where's my outcome? But the question is, are you willing to continue an effort and compound it to have your hockey stick moment? Can you stay in the game enough to allow the win to be possible? Because there's also the reality that many of us don't ask ourselves, what if the win, the outcome, the result that you're asking is one more week of effort, one more month of effort? Some cases, depending on what the goal is, one more year of effort. What if the thing that you want to have happen so desperately, so much in your business or in your life is on the other side of you actually continuing that compounding effort? What if you knew that it could take off next week? Would you still keep going? And it's something we have to ask ourselves because it starts to really humble us to say, well, if what's going to happen next week, it's like, exactly. So it means it's not that you don't want it. It's not that you don't want this business. It's not that you don't want that goal. It's that you're frustrated that's not happening earlier. That's fair. You can be frustrated, but that's a different problem to solve than I want to quit this business. So this is why understanding the source of where it comes from is really, really important. The other thing that may happen, and this is valid, is sometimes when I said it's not a matter of the absence of evidence. We're not going to say, like, who cares about information if it's working or not? Just keep doing it anyway. Well, no, doing the same thing over time and there never being any incremental change at all would be silly. That would just be, we're going to keep taking action and hope for the best. We still want to take intentional action, strategic action. But the thing we have to also be aware of is sometimes there is actual evidence to say that the thing that's frustrating you, if we go into the data, if we go into the evidence, may show us that the thing that you're banging your head against the wall for is in fact not strategic, is in fact not beneficial for you to be doing. So you can also ask yourself, is there evidence here to say that the thing that I'm doing over and over and over again is maybe actually something that in fact is not working? So knowing when to quit is wisdom. Knowing when to quit is wisdom. So I am not going to shame, oh, you can't be a quitter. The other side of entrepreneurship, this is why it's an art. The other side of entrepreneurship is the classic entrepreneur that most of us think of, which is the person who's like, I don't care, it's going to happen regardless. I don't care, I'm going to make it happen. I don't care, I'm going to make it happen. And I literally think about this like an analogy of like you're in a car and you're on a highway and you see these signs and it's like road closing, road closing. And you're like, oh no, it's not going to close. And it's like these big billboards being like, get off the road, road ending. And you're like, no, no. And you see all this evidence that's coming up of like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. There's no way this is, going down. And you see all these alerts and you're just so positive that it's going to happen, even with the absence of evidence that you're that entrepreneur who drives off a cliff. And it's like, oh my God, how did we get here? And it's like, I literally told you road ending 15 times and you didn't quit. So there's a big difference between quitting your business and then quitting a version of your business that's not working. There is a big difference. I'm going to repeat. There's a big difference between quitting your business and quitting a version of your business that is not working. What that means is you're quitting the play on the field that you're doing because you realize you're not making movement. You're not quitting the game entirely. And that's the thing that is crucial as a differentiator to know what really is the right next step here. Sometimes the feeling you're having is telling you to burn down a strategy. It's not telling you to burn down the entire business. So, this is again why regulation, pause, reflection, going into evidence is really helpful before we say, like, I'm out of here, I quit, I can't do this anymore. It's all frantic, it's all emotional. There is, if we peel back the layers of this, oftentimes awareness that we can discover in those moments where we say, like, I can't do this, I have to quit. Now, the thing is, give yourself permission to explore, okay? Give yourself permission to explore the idea of what would it look like? We're not saying you're going to do it, but what would it look like if you did quit that client? What would it look like if you fired that person? What would it look like if you killed that strategy? What would it look like if you closed that offer? What would it look like if you just didn't market that way anymore or you weren't on that platform? Like, I'm not saying that's the decision, but let's get curious. What would that actually look like? And I think it's important because sometimes we live in this like all black or white, all or nothing thinking of like, it's either this way or that way, this way or that way. It's like, but what if we could live instead of an or world in an and world? What would it look like if multiple things could be true? What would it look like if your business was still having the ability to be successful and simultaneously you don't have to have that offer anymore? What would that look like? So we can get really curious. We can get really intentional about getting understanding of what would it look like if things were different? What would it look like if the strategy was working, if we killed it entirely, and starting to explore that and pull that thread? A regulated mind is going to make this exploring really clear, and it's really going to help you to get to the source of where it's coming from and what to do next. What otherwise will happen is if you are dysregulated in doing this investigation, you're going to just try to execute something, do anything, rip a band-aid because you just simply want relief. And I get it, right? Like, it's again really easy to be on that field and you get injured and you think, you know what? Let me just I'm in pain. I just want to sit on the bench and I just want to quit. It can be really easy to be like, I can't play a sport anymore. It's not for me because I got injured. The question is, okay, well, like, what would it look like if we just approached it differently? What would it look like if we rehabbed and got you back on the field? Or what would it look like if we put you on the field half the time so you had more time to rest in between? Right? We don't want to make a rash decision based off of the wrong information. And sometimes business owners, again, strictly based off the fact they're not regulated, you're doing that. You're making this big call, you're making this big claim, this big move because the big move makes you feel big movement emotionally, mentally, energetically. It's understandable. But that big movement that you want to make in this big decision to fire the client, cancel the strategy, do that thing is also the thing that could completely sink your business and put you out of business when really all you were looking for was a potential quick strategy change and not having to do the same thing over and over and not get results. So, what you want to ask yourself is, why do you actually want to quit today? Like, if you have that day where like, I am done, I can't do this anymore. Like, ask yourself, like, why do I really want to quit? And then I would ask you, are you really regulated enough right now to answer that honestly and calmly? Like, is it clear? Are you like, I've never been more clear of something in my life? Like, are you regulated enough right now to say that calmly and honestly? So, is this a financial pressure? Is it loneliness? Is it isolation? Is it a specific person? Is it a situation? Is this potentially that you've kind of lost sight of why you started? You've lost sight of the vision. You've lost sight of your purpose. You've lost sight of where this could go. You're not feeling inspired or activated any longer. Could it be something else? The thing that is crucial that I never allow anybody to ever take an action on is I get to the bottom of it and I want to know where is it coming from. So I had a client who came to me, and sometimes these take very different flavors, okay? I had a client who came to me and said to me, Kate, I'm thinking about starting an agency. And she had previously sent me some messages that were, and we've talked about it since, so she wouldn't mind me sharing this, but she was pretty like dysregulated, okay? So like she was pretty like, ugh, my clients won't execute, and I'm just like, really frustrated because I'm giving them great coaching and great advice, but they're not integrating it. And I just don't even know what the point is. Like, I feel like they're not even doing the work, so on and so forth. Anyway, then her and I talk and she says, listen, I really am thinking, I think I'm gonna start an agency. And I said, hey, any chance you can get on a call really quick? And she was like, sure. So I get on a call with her. I said, so tell me about this agency. Like, what are you thinking? And she's like, well, I was thinking this, thinking that. And I was like, great. Like, out of curiosity, what is the kind of core of why you want to start this agency? Like, what's your spark? What's your vision? Well, I'm really frustrated because my clients aren't doing what I want them to do. And I figured this way, I have an agency that they could hire to help them to integrate these things. And I said, okay, here we go. You don't want to be an agency owner. You're looking to create an agency because you're so frustrated with solving this problem of trying to get your clients to execute and them not taking the action. And she was like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, this is a way for you to mention what you talked about earlier of my clients aren't doing what I want them to do. This is basically your, foolproof way of ensuring your clients do what you want them to do. So instead of fixing the delivery to figure out why they're not taking the actions you want them to, you have instead decided to create a second business to not really even have to make some of those adjustments. And you're just going to have them hire the agency instead. So what we discovered is like, this was not really like she came to me being like, hey, Kate, I want a second business. She wasn't coming to me excited about having an agency. She wasn't coming to me wanting this for herself or for her business. She was doing this because she wanted some way for her clients to actually do the things that she tells them to do. So this is why it's really important for us to unpack this, because I have also had times where people literally that I know have gone and done the equivalent of starting that agency. They've killed an offer that they shouldn't have. They added an offer that they shouldn't have. They've let go of a team member. I had another person that I was working with, and she had a team member that was not, in her opinion, pulling their weight. And she said, I'm going to fire this person. Like, I've just had it. I've just had it. And I said, okay, come back to me once you've regulated. Okay, fine. So she regulates. And I said, so unpack it for me. Like, what exactly is your frustration? So she starts to kind of unpack, and I got curious. I said, so out of curiosity, in the event that she was able to do these outcomes for you, how do you like her as a person? And she was like, oh, I love her as a person. Like, she's great in that regard. It's the outcomes. Like, I just feel like she's not good at the job. So I start to unpack further, and I realized that we don't really have very good documentation. We don't have very good training. We don't have very good coaching of this person to have those outcomes. So then I discovered that she loves this person on her team, but she's not loving working with them simply based off the fact that they're not getting the outcomes. But the reason they're not getting the outcomes is because the team member doesn't have what she needs. So I said, listen, I share all that with her. And she says, oh my gosh, you're right. I'm like, yeah, like you're expecting a passing comment in a Slack message to be the reason that she gets the coaching to go become this person. She's going to need more than that. So what we basically did is we went through and said, okay, let's define, let's get clear as to what these issues are. Let's get clarity of what the disconnect is so we can fix it. And sure enough, she went home to dive back into her business and started to create these resources. And that team member is still with her today. And that was a year ago. So this was potential team members being fired, potential new businesses being started or being taken down for that matter. It really, I will tell you, like, these moments can be the difference of your career. These moments can be the difference of the future scalability of your business. This is not just like I was being dramatic. That moment of being dramatic, that moment of whether you want to call it drama, dysregulation is what I would call it. If you're dysregulated and you're having these moments of you're like, I quit, I can't do this anymore, I'm throwing in the towel. You ever had those moments where you're really, really emotional and you're really at this like peak state and you're like, I'm done. And then you get to this place where you come back energetically and you go, oh my God, I can't believe what I did. Oh my God, like take it back. right? It's because you're now in a clear emotional brain, a rational brain. So, what this means is that if you make these decisions all the time, frequently, at these peaks, you will literally change over time the direction of your business. And as a result of that, the success of your business as well. So, the thing that we want to look at is every problem in your business is progress. And one of the quotes that I love is that your obstacle in your business is actually your opportunity. Because the thing that you feel the most resistance to is typically the place that a lot of your growth is sitting for you in your business. You're like, I don't love team. I don't love marketing. I don't love sales. If you were to dive into that area, if you were to dive into that thing, that is often the complete unlock of your business. So when we feel the resistance, we say we have problems. I want to just you know, be super, super direct. Having problems in your business is not a bad thing. Problems are an indication of progress. I literally want you to visualize a wheel on a road. When you have a wheel that is literally on a road, driving a car, a bicycle, whatever it is, you need resistance to create movement. Okay, so think of that wheel meets the road. You need resistance, the actual pressure of that wheel hitting the road to move the bike, to move the car. The same thing is true when it comes to business. Business is not a matter of all sunshine and rainbows. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you are going to have curveballs. You're going to have problems. You're going to have resistances. You're going to have fires. It's what you signed up for. So I, as much as the next person, have moments where I go, oh my God, because you're just feeling overstimulated. As I said earlier, you're feeling like, am I the right player for this? You're wondering, is this going to work? You're wondering, can I keep going? I feel injured. I feel exhausted. All that can be true. And you still don't have to close the business. So it's really crucial that we learn as business owners that we decided to play this game. It's like signing up for football and being pissed that you got hit. This is the game that you signed up for. So the question is not a matter of if you're tired. You've been on the field for a long time. I'm sure you're tired. If you're feeling sore, you've been getting hit every which way. I am certain that you're sore. But the reality is, you still have the ability to play. We can try a different play, but we have to recognize that the play is just the strategy. I need to understand, are you wanting to play this sport anymore? Do you want to get back on the field? And I tell every client, I can't decide that for you. You have to decide that. Because if you decide to walk off that field, you're going to have to live with it, nobody else. So, what I find for myself is I definitely I have this inner coach in me, probably from being a coach, but I have an inner coach in me and I give myself coaching and I'm like, okay, is this going to be my story? I think through that. Trust me, I've had days where I think about throwing in the towel and I have a really, really low moment or I have a really hard day or a hard week or a hard conversation. And I go, man, can I do this? Can I do this? And so I get curious and I ask myself, okay, what would that look like? Let's just humor me. What would that look like? Okay, well, I would quit. Okay, great. You would quit what? I would quit being an entrepreneur. I'd close the business and I would just have a personal Instagram where I post my dogs and my travel. Okay. And then what would you do? I would go to get a 9 to 5. Okay, great. And then, what would your life look like? Well, what would I have to adjust because I'm not an entrepreneur? And what would I have to, potentially downsize or reduce or remove because I'm not an entrepreneur? Okay. I start to sit with that. And I always get to this place of if I ended up on social media and I saw other people doing what I knew I could have always done, could I sleep at night? No. If I had to tell a future daughter, oh, this is what happened, I had a hard month, so I quit, would I feel proud to say that to her or to tell that story? No. So every avenue that I go down of what would I tell a future daughter? What would I feel like on a Friday if I opened Instagram and saw somebody else 7 years from now doing what I knew I could have always done? What if I take this, I'm going to quit, and I do something about it, and I truly do quit, and I wake up tomorrow and I hate it all? How much certainty do I have that this is truly what I want? And if I'm not 100% certain, meaning I would do it without even a shadow of a doubt, I'm never going to do it. And here's what I know every single time: I was defeated. I felt like in the moment, I couldn't see enough evidence that I was going to win. 2, I lacked confidence. I believed in a moment that I wasn't the player that could win this game. My confidence, my mindset was trash. And I needed a pep talk. I needed my own coach to be like, hey, and George does this for me now all the time, is I will be down and I will be like in the dumps on something. And he'll be like, excuse me, where's Blazer Kate? Where's Kate that does A, B, C, and D? Like, enough already. Get back on the field. You were literally born for this. And I need that coach in my ear being like, okay, yeah, let's go. And I start to get back into it. But like, I need that outside person. I need my person, just like you need your person. I need somebody to tell me, whether it's a coach, a partner. I have the beautiful benefit of having a business coach as a partner, but I have had coaches who used to be that person. Maybe it's your husband, maybe it's a friend, a peer, somebody who can call you to your potential. So I'm either defeated because I don't feel I can win the game. I'm either lost in my confidence, my own mindset of wondering if I'm the player for this, or third, I haven't taken a rest day. And here's the thing that I also want to say: if you are somebody who's going to be a player in this game of entrepreneurship and you don't think that you're ever going to have off season, that you're ever going to have a Sunday off, that you ever need to do rehabilitation or rest, you will continue to have this feeling of, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And it's not because you can't do this, it's because you've never allowed yourself to rest. You're depleting yourself so significantly with your battery being at a just all-time low, and then wondering why you can't keep continuing. Why can't I seem to perform? Because you literally don't have what you need to be able to perform. So, what I ask myself is a lot of hard questions in these moments, because I recognize that like I've put a lot of energy, a lot of time, as you have, into your business. And if you feel like you want to quit, if you're feeling down, it's okay to feel that way. There's no shame in that. I feel it all the time. But what you do about it is the difference of whether you are going to be in this game or not. And I would hate for you to leave a sport that you were built for, that you were designed for, that you could win the championship of, because you had a moment of weakness, a moment of, we're not going to win, that scoreboard's way too high, a moment of, I'm not the person to lead this team, a moment of, I'm too tired, I can't keep going, when you definitely still have 30% left in your tank, or you just need a little bit of 2 minutes on the bench, catch your breath, chug some water, and get back on the field, right? So let's allow ourselves to not make it wrong, and to also recognize that two things can be true. You can be exhausted and want to quit, but not. You can be, I feel like the strategy is not going to work and I'm feeling so frustrated because I'm doing action, I'm not getting where I want to go, and I'm not going to quit this business. I am so burnt out. I'm so tired. I am so beyond depleted that I realize I need to rest because I'm not going to quit this business. They're just a different perspective of the same symptoms. So, what I want you to take from today: the founder who learns to regulate and to ask these questions and resources can feel the full weight without actually making the decision. That is the founder. That is the person. That is you who can scale your business, because you can feel it all and not quit. And you can navigate all the emotion and not quit. And so I'm not going to give you some crazy like 12-step, do all these things in this moment, because that's the last thing you need when you're in one of these moments, okay? It's not like more and more and more and more homework. But first, regulate. So walk, breathe, call somebody, whatever it may be. And step 2, I want you to reconnect with why you started. And the reason that I share that story of how would I feel if I went back to a 9 to 5 and saw everybody else online, the reason I gave that example specifically is that's actually how I got started. I was a server and I had my phone in my apron and I went to the back room and I in between, which I shouldn't have been doing, but in between tables, I was looking at people on Instagram living the life that I wanted. And the freedom, the financial freedom, the impact, there was so many different flavors of how it showed up. And I realized that I was like, I really want that life. I know that I can do that. I know that I would thrive in it. I know that I could crush it. I know I could create such massive change. I know I could, be resourceful enough to handle it. And so I've come back to that example because that really is my why. When I started, I knew that I didn't want a small life. I knew I didn't want to have a small footprint in this world of the impact that I created. And this business has allowed the ability for me to impact a lot of people, my family, my people in my immediate circle, my team, my friends, my clients, everybody. And what I do is I go back and I put myself back in server Kate's shoes, or I'll read an old message of a client, or I will have somebody else share with me, why they feel that I am meant for this in the moments that maybe I don't feel I'm meant for it. And it grounds me so beautifully into what I'm building and what I'm doing. And every single time, I've never had a single moment where I thought, oh, I should have quit and I didn't. Every single time, I'm like, man, am I happy I didn't do that? Man, am I happy I didn't quit? Man, am I happy that I didn't take that action that I thought was so true and so right for me at the moment that would have been so awful today. So I really want to give you that permission slip, okay? I'm not telling you that in every moment in your business, you're going to feel like a winner. I'm not telling you that you're always going to be that fearless, we're going to win this championship energy every moment of the game. I would be lying to you if I told you that that was going to be the case. It's not going to be the case in being an entrepreneur. But here's what I can tell you. If you regulate and take some of these reflection pieces to heart, you're in the game. And that's all that matters. If you stay in the game, if you stay continuing to pursue being on the field, you can take a little bit of time on the bench. You want to take a week off? Go for it. You want to take a day off? Go for it. You need your coach to speak into you? Do that. You need support from your teammates? You need some peers or friends or your partner or family speak into you? Do that. You feel like, hey, this play is not working and I feel like we're not going to win with this play. We need a new strategy to beat this team. Great, do that. But do not leave the game. Don't leave the field. So the people that are successful in business, everyone's question is, how do I become successful? How do I scale? How do I get these outcomes that I want for myself, my business, my life? The reality is the person who's winning is not even the person who doesn't have these thoughts. I know so many women who are all stages of business that have these thoughts, that have these feelings. You're not going to be like this random person as an entrepreneur who's like, I've never thought about throwing in the towel. I've just always been, everything's optimistic. It's not the case for most people. So know you're not alone and recognize that part of the fact of playing this sport is that you did sign up for this, but your mindset around when you feel resistance, when you feel tired, when you feel down in the game and how you rally, the only thing that determines those successful and those who don't are literally the basis of the people who are successful. They just refuse to quit. They just refuse to quit. That's the only difference. Person A and person B experience the exact same problem. A team member quits, he gets canceled on the internet, you do X, you do Y, and you have this thing that you're like, I'll never come back from this. I feel like I'm just so overwhelmed. The only difference between the person who is there 2, 3, 4, 10 years later and the person who's not is one refused to quit. And so I hope, as I have hoped for myself in the past, and I will continue to hope for myself, that I'm never the person who quits. And what I will tell you is something beautiful is going to happen, because when you have these moments where you want to quit and you don't, the fun part is as they happen, the more and more that you're like, I just feel like I can't do this. And you do. I feel like I can't do it. And you do. And it happens again and again and again and again. What ends up happening is you're actually building evidence in your mental bank. Your mental memory is reserving all that evidence to say that there were so many times that I wanted to give up and I didn't. So when you have that moment again, a Thursday morning, a Tuesday night, a Sunday evening going into the Monday scaries of something for you, recognize that you've had this feeling before. You've had this moment before. You've had this, is this for me? Am I meant for this? Will I be successful? Is it going to get me the outcome? You have had this moment before and you did not throw in the towel. And think how happy you were after that, that you didn't, that you continued because you had another win and another person served and another team member and another, impact on social, another shift in your brand, etc. You're here listening to the Ambitious podcast because you were designed for this. You were meant for this. So let today be your reminder that it's okay to be down, but it's not okay to quit. So I hope today was helpful. As a reminder, feel free to save today's episode if you'd like for yourself as the thing that you come back to when you feel like you want to throw in the towel, when you feel like you're done, when you feel like you can't keep going. Let this be the thing that helps to get you back to baseline. That maybe you're like, okay, reminder, yes, go regulate, ask myself these hard-hitting questions. Where is this really coming from? What would it look like if it was easy? And then asking myself, am I really wanting to quit this sport? How confident am I that that's what my right choice is? And I am confident. To be honest, I'm certain that if you actually run through this process each time you have one of these days or these moments, 99% of the people who do that will never quit. And that's because this is something to help ground you for making a move that is a long-term impact to a currently short-term feeling. So I hope today was helpful. If you also feel like you're in that season, by the way, I would love to just speak into you. Maybe today felt like it spoke into you and you feel like, oh, like I really needed this. I feel like I've been in this kind of funk. I've been in a feeling of not feeling energetic and at my prime and thriving. And I feel like this made me realize, you know what? No, I do want to be on this field. Or maybe even today made you realize I actually don't want to be in this sport. Maybe there's two pieces of clarity that came from this. But if you feel like you are in this scenario and you feel like you just really need to share that with somebody because you are feeling frustrated and annoyed and resistance in one bucket or another, you know where to find me. My DMs are always open. I can't tell you enough how much it means when you guys reach out and share, I was listening to this episode and it really landed with me, or I have a question about X. I want to see what you thought about this for me. I love when you guys reach out and just share takeaways, questions, thoughts, comments, all of it. So if you feel like today is landing for you and you want to share some of that and be witnessed in it, I would be absolutely honored and happy to support you. And with that being said, we will see you on next week's episode. And as always, stay ambitious.